Leone. I'm the new principal for school number 17. I want to thank you for coming out on a Saturday morning. I do have coffee on the way, and there are some donuts in the back. I wanted to thank you for coming out today as we talk about this important topic of school improvement, and particularly the importance of community engagement in the process. We have a lot of our staff has come here today, as well as volunteers, different various community partners and parents that have joined us. I am grateful to your interest in helping us improve School 17 together. What I want to do today is really spend the bulk of the time in small group engagement and input and reflection. I first want to provide you with a general context and an understanding of some of the key pillars of reform that we are implementing at School 17 as part of our school improvement grant, which is the current NYSED approved intervention plan. So we'll go through the discussion about what the purpose of the public hearing is, what receivership is, a review of our school data and context, an overview of our approved improvement plan, and then spend a lot of time on the feedback opportunities today. So many of you have heard in the news, receivership is a new terminology for schools that have been previously known as schools in need of improvement or priority schools. It requires persistently struggling schools to make rapid achievement gains. If the schools don't meet the targets within 1 or 2 years, and School 17 is a 2-year school, the district is required to appoint an outside receiver by the state. The superintendent serves as that receiver first, and then the appointed receiver, whether it's the superintendent or an outside receiver, has a little bit more discretion in managing the school improvement plan and some flexibilities that are allotted under the receivership law. Data for improvement targets will be released from New York State Education Department by September 2nd. So just to give you a picture of Rochester's standing in comparison to the state, we have a number of schools totaling 14 that are in this receivership status. We have made significant gains in either making changes to our schools or school improvement reform through transformation in getting some schools off of that status. So we have less than Buffalo and Syracuse, which are usually our local benchmarks. As you see here, we have the Enrico Fermi School. I was looking for the pointer, but I don't know if I'm going to manage that. Right in the 2-year struggling list under classification with some of the other schools that are part of RCSD. So just as a general timeline, the Education Transformation Act took effect July 1st. And that was a little bit different for New York State Education. Typically, the Commissioner of Education changes the laws associated with schools in need of improvement. This particular bill generated out of the governor's office as an attempt to create more urgency behind the school improvement efforts statewide. So that meant that New York State Education Department and the Commissioner needed to respond to this new law from an education regulation point of view. So they officially released the list of receivership schools July 16th, and all of our improvement plans were submitted and approved by July 31st for state education for this 15-16 school year. August 15th, August 2015, we had to notify families, and here we are beginning to have the public hearing and form community engagement team and process to review those improvement plans that are currently in New York State Education Department's hands. We will have, again, the data targets released. They're going to make baseline visits to get a good sense of where we're beginning, which is how we're going to spend some of this time this morning. And then submit our first quarterly report. I do believe, and Michelle, there's a written report due at the end of September that adjusts any current plan, modifies it, and tweaks it to respond to the receivership regulations. So then you'll see that there's quarterly updates throughout the school year, and then around May, really making a determination whether there has been demonstrable progress. So by August 14th, there it is, We will have to have communicated the school status, established the school community engagement team, submitted the state-approved intervention plan, and conducted a public hearing. All of these steps, we're on track to complete all these steps by that date. And the purpose of the hearing today is to discuss our performance and gain your feedback on the approved intervention plan. So we're going to take a look at what those pillars of reform are, get public feedback on that, and look at our metrics. And that will all come together to really look at how we tweak our plan for receivership. This to me was an important graphic to consider, right? So what we want to do is really take teacher voice and staff voice, community voice, student voice, all in the context of the data and our current levels of achievement, and that's what will help us map successful reform efforts. When we think about improving a school, around the outside of the circle is the improvement process, right? Where are we? How might we solve the issues at hand? How do we build readiness of staff to address it? How do we communicate the improvement plan? How do we implement it? And then how do we monitor and adjust? And it's these three things. None of this can happen with a leader alone. I officially joined School 17 July 1st. I've been the liaison to State Education Department for all of our priority schools for about 2 years now, prior to that. So I know that it's not just about changing one of the players. It's about really building collective capacity and ownership to do it together. And that ownership is not just in the staff at the school, but a belief in students and families that and in the community that the change can take place. So where do we stand now? So our vision statement is really that we'll be a beacon for our community in the center of an urban village. School 17 is located in the heart of the Josana neighborhood. The Josana neighborhood is a 14611 zip code. It's J, Orchard, Saxton, Ames. I'm always going to mix this up. What's the N and the A? Neighborhood Association. Oh, I had all 4 streets. Awesome. All right. So right in the Josana neighborhood, that is a place where there's been general focus for improvement. We have 45 new homes, low-income homes by Cornerstone Builders going up, 145 Habitat for Humanity homes planned to come up. So there is a strong effort of neighborhood revitalization. When I looked at the data of how many school-age children, pre-K through 8th grade, reside in that general vicinity, so the 1.5-mile radius around the school, there's 1,660 children in that neighborhood. Our school has an enrollment of around 700, and yet only 18% of our overall school population comes from within that bubble. In our lower grades, in kindergarten and 1st grade, over the past 2 years, we've made significant efforts in recruiting from the neighborhood, and those numbers have doubled. So we have 41% of our kindergarten going to 1st grade from the neighborhood, and 38% of 1st grade going to 2nd. So we've doubled that general benchmark of where we were as a school, but our efforts need to continue. We pride ourselves on our diversity. Our diversity is our strength. At this point, we've reached almost equal enrollment of Hispanic and African American students and about 10% white and other. We do have a significant population of students with disabilities and English language learners in our school, which means as we frame our work forward, it's about becoming a center of excellence in language and literacy, and embracing cross-cultural understanding and some of the racial tensions that have historically existed among the community. We are right now awaiting word from New York State Education Department about the addition of a 3-year-old pre-K that would serve about 18 students full day. We've set aside space for that in anticipation, and that we hope that will begin January 4th of 2016. We currently have about 3 sections of each grade level, except for a big bubble at grade 5. And those sections have traditionally been 2 monolingual sections, 1 bilingual section. 2 years ago with the School Improvement Grant, we added a dual language enrichment program. And the difference is, in a bilingual programs serve, a transitional bilingual program serves Spanish-speaking students with the ultimate goal that they transition into English. A dual language program serves both Spanish and English-speaking students in both English and Spanish. So both sets of students begin to engage in not only linguistic exchanges, but exchanges about their culture, their practices, their beliefs, and it begins to build a new level of community understanding and a new level of appreciation for the diversity. And so there you'll see that in K1 and second grade now, this year, we have that program continuing, and it's growing up with that cohort of students. We do not have bilingual education at 7th and 8th grade. That is primarily due to the fact of a lack of certified teachers in that area that make it very difficult to staff appropriately for 7th and 8th grade. And what we do hope to do is incorporate native language arts literature instruction at that grade level to keep the enhancements going for that appreciation. When we look at 5 years worth of trend data around student average daily attendance, you see that there has been an increase. What is another indicator is also around chronic absenteeism, which has been our target for the past 2 years in reducing chronic absenteeism. That's absenteeism for more than 20 days in a school year. Student discipline, so total number of suspensions, this has been our struggle. We have had nearly 500 incidents last year, evolving in different kinds of, we had 800 disciplinary incidents resulting in nearly 500 suspensions, and this is a key focus for our work. I have been participating on the Community Task Force for Solution Not Suspensions for the past year and a half, and we've gained some support and local leadership support both from Rochester Police Department. Officer Moses Robinson has stepped out in the pictures that you saw in the pre-presentation slideshow. He just stepped out for a minute, but he helped organize a Field of Dreams. Those were from our Field of Dreams event last week, which was for a group of our boys to camp out on Frontier Field and learn about leadership and opportunities to look at different mentors in the community. And we hope to grow that program extensively with the support of David Tennant, who's also here. That this is a dream in the community to really build male leadership in a positive way, not just in school, but outside of school. And that's one example. We've also been working with the Gandhi Center and Partners in Restorative Initiatives around restorative practice, and we've created a little small team of what we call positive peace warriors, which are our young students in grades 5 through 8 that have demonstrated capacity and willingness to serve as peer leaders, ambassadors, and mediators in the school, and we'll be growing that program. With that comes the School Violence Index. So the School Violence Index is a measure utilized by New York State Education Department for looking at the level of incidents. So you saw there were 800 incidents last year. Some of those carry weight in terms of violence and danger, and there's a formula that's publicly available on the state education site. If anybody's interested, let me know and I'll send you a link if you want to know about the computation of it. But these are 20 categories of mandating reporting of incidents that create the violence index when it's in ratio with the enrollment. So while you look at the incident total under this VADAR, so about half of those 800 incidents were part of these 20 codes. The data for the last 2 years of 2.24 and 1.61 exceeds the threshold of 1.5, which is the threshold allowable by state education. So part of our prioritized work plan will be on ensuring, and the work has already begun, ensuring that we no longer fall under this category, which labels us as persistently violent and dangerous as a school. And so that citation was just submitted from New York State Education Department, and it's focused on these two numbers, that 2.24 and 1.61 being greater than 1.5 over 2 years. And so that'll be another key piece of our work. And again, not one that we're just beginning, but one that really requires additional attention and transparency with the public. School 17 was performing around the same, lower than the 50th percentile, right? And only at the 5th percentile for growth. But look at the 13-14 school year, and we don't have 14-15 results yet. And use that same formula, and you could say that the students at school 17 performed at the 70th percentile, so the 50th percentile. What the achievement data is did they cross this bar, right? So achievement data is, did they make it over the hurdle of level 3 proficiency? And those are numbers that we are significantly concerned about. So 1% and then 2%, which is a 1.6%, and then 0.9, and then 4%, which is a significant increase, but not nearly close enough. Again, this is about the growth scores. So when we don't look at did they jump over a hurdle, but we look at the line of growth. Where did they start? Where did they end? You want to be at least at the 50th, which is the average for like students. And so for school, the last school year that we have data for, we were right at the 52nd percentile. So again, doing better than about half of the similar kids throughout New York State in terms of their rate of growth. It's small to see, but I do have hard copies on each of the small group tables that you'll be able to, one hard copy that you'll be able to reference if you want to look at this in depth. But this is about comparing 2012 to 13, did we make gains in the performance index? And across all racial subgroups except for white, where you see that white box, we made gains. And the white subgroup of students demonstrated slight loss. So the other is an assessment of reading and math that we do 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. And what we ideally want to see is this blue bar exceeding the red bar. The red bar, again, is compared to students nationwide and the growth that they make during a year. And in order to close a gap that begins from the start early on, we need to make accelerated growth if we want to close those 2 lines. And so we ideally want to see at least equal blue bars to red. And so you see that in 3rd grade, in 4th grade, in 5th grade, that's the case. And our target will be around improving our reading instruction in all of our grades to ensure that that happens throughout. In mathematics, the story is a little bit different. So you see that students at school 17 on this assessment typically made more growth than the national norm. We have had significant challenges at our 7th and 8th grade levels and are working diligently with the central office here to ensure that there's improved practice and more use of assessment for instruction, especially in math. And so this is the core of the work here this morning, is really to talk about what are the key pillars of reform here and how are we doing that. But before I go into this next piece, I want to share with you, I want you to meet some of our students virtually. And these are students from our dual language program. Can you hear that or no? School, and I know his 2/3. The process from me finding out that day that he's 2/3 to him having an appointment the next day at a dental office. The process of if a family is facing issues of homelessness, being able to have a single point of contact, pick up the phone and help fast track and assist the intake process for the appropriate services. It's not that the school does all those things. The school works as the glue to other community agencies to make that happen. And so that is a key piece, and I'm so excited because we've been working with the mayor's office and helping to develop this concept, as well as the Farish Foundation and the Center for Governmental Research, to really come up in the next year with a strong, cohesive strategic plan that's not just about the district doing this, that it's about the district with the city, with the settlement house, with the dental center, with all of these arrays of services that make that vision of being the beacon, the lighthouse in the community come to life. The other piece here is, what does it mean for families? It's the hub of access, right? So I noticed this actually came out one day. I saw 4 police cars throughout the day come to the school, and I thought, what is going on? Because I'm not calling the police, and nobody else from my staff has called because our phone lights up when they dial 911. And I went out and I started asking, what is going on? And families were coming to the school because it was a safer place to file a police report and following up on incidents that had happened outside in the community or other things that were pending, but found the school as the safest place to make that connection. So why not build on that? For teachers, it means that there's better learning and there's better attendance because all of those other obstacles are removed. And how will we measure its success? We are, Morgan Kennedy, who's here today, who's a AmeriCorps Vista Fellow, has joined us from U of R for the year to serve as an inventorier, I'm not sure that that's a word, but a person to take inventory of all the services that are already there, identify who's the point of access for each one, talk about the intake process for each service, see if we can come up with case management. And Kirsten Barclay, who's also here, she'll be facilitating the back table on community school, is working with us from CGR to research this. Some know it as promise zones or communities in schools or beacon schools. There's different models out there nationally. And to think about what that means for us to engage in as a community, not just the district, as a community together. So if you're interested in that, again, this is Partnerships RACF. Hank Rubin is also here. He has written some books that are published on this topic, and he's serving as an in-kind advocate and advisor, and just sometimes the guy I call to see what he thinks. So we'll see increased attendance, reduced chronic absenteeism, hopefully shared data agreements, and a method of tracking how students and families are receiving these services. The other is dual language, and we're following a national model of the Gomez model that's currently in grades K through 2, but we're also implementing some big school-wide approaches. You'll see if you visit our school, our classrooms will look different this year. They're set up in the same way. Items are labeled in English and Spanish. There's student-generated alphabets. So if you're studying Native Americans, the A through Z on your wall for that unit is all vocabulary to do with Native Americans. And it's in English, and it may be in Spanish in the next classroom. You'll see that it feels different. For families and students, they get to learn in English and in Spanish, and both languages are equally valued and embraced. We'll see improved literacy in both. So these are a few of our students, but they spend the day learning side by side. And we call this PROGRAMA Sol, which means sun in Spanish. But again, that idea that this is a shining example of the potential at School 17. More and better learning time. This has received a lot of attention. We added 300 learning hours to the traditional school year 2 years ago at School 17. We follow the National Center for Time and Learning model, and we've also increased access to summer programs with partnership from Summer League. So students in grades K through 2 have the option of participating in a 6-week full-day summer program either at SUNY Brockport or Allendale, Columbia. And that summer program involves learning academics, learning projects. They did a big performance of the Little Red Hen is what I got to see from the kindergartners. They learn to swim, and they get an experience on a college campus or at a school outside and open up the horizons and of what's possible for them. More and better learning time means that every day there's about an hour and a half extra from what most schools have. And 30 of those minutes are going to be dedicated to targeting what I need, win time. If I need support in reading, I'll get support in reading. If I'm on track and I need to be pushed to the next level, I'll get that push. And that's about our teacher staff being willing to work together. So instead of 3 teachers per grade level, I can push 3 or 4 more to that grade level at that time and utilize my volunteers like the Help Me Read program. Miss Linda helps us coordinate that. And the AmeriCorps members, Miss Rachel from MCC helps us coordinate that. And push them to that grade level during that time. So now there are 7 or 8 or 9 adults to break these students into small groups to get exactly what they need. We'll measure its success, again, that the student growth scores. When we look at beginning of the year and end of the year, the slope of that line, the rate of their improvement will be accelerated. So engaging enrichment, this is just a menu of what we've had for providers. We've had YMCA programming, Ibero, Charles Settlement House, Boy Scouts, Xerox does science programming, the Eastman School of Music, we have a string orchestra of students that play violin, cello, viola. We also have a chorus. Mr. Mario, our vocal music teacher, is here, and we have performances with choral ensembles throughout the year, and we hope to be adding a band, and if anybody has steel drums, the steel drum represents the fusion of African and Caribbean culture. Many of our students share those roots, and it would be a symbolic picture of the diversity of our school. So that's on my wish list. I don't know, I'll learn how to hammer them out somehow. We talked about the summer program opportunities, the health program opportunities. We hope to partner more closely with Garden Aerial and Greentopia. If you've driven down through the neighborhood on Smith Street, this group has purchased 3 vacant properties, and they are growing flowers that they're now selling at the public market at Hart's Grocery and on Wegmans on East Avenue. And those flowers are part of a program to revitalize the soil in the community, as well as create youth employment opportunities. So all of his employees are between 16 and 24 that work on this, and they're pursuing, half of them need to pursue a GED program, and we're working with Greentopia to try to assist in linking them to the services to be a true partnership. But we have lots of grounds around the school that need tending. Beautiful gardens. CCSI, one of our partners, came out and their volunteers came to assist us. And we hope to have more people on hand to work with that. Social emotional development and support is going to be a topic on its own today. We are, again, there's multiple partners there and volunteers. Ark of Jesus, which is the church across the street on J Street, and the Help Me Read program have been providing us with volunteers and coordinating that. The other piece is strengthening our teaching and learning. And what we found is that there's been a lot of pressure for teachers to cover. I call it page-turning teaching. You should get to this section by this date, right? Flip, 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 flip the page until you get there by that date. And what that does is it takes away from the connection to students and student learning. So my staff has been amazing. This summer, over 40 teachers came in for 20 hours of time to pull up their sleeves and look at the learning standards for each grade level, map out curriculum, discuss ways to get away from page-turning teaching, to understand what the big ideas are, and to begin to have a little bit of flexibility to say, Kelly, what is it that you want to learn about? Let me think about how this connects to this learning goal, and make a place for Kelly to have that connection back with me. The other way is for me to say, how do I assess student learning? It's not just by a test score. I'm a parent of 2 children, and one that I took on that's grown now, and I want to see where they started, and I want to see them grow. There's nothing more beautiful than looking on my mirror every morning and I have the little handprint from pre-K that says Happy Mother's Day, right? And then I look at my son that morning and I see how he grew. The same thing is true for a celebration of learning. There's nothing better than flipping through a portfolio and seeing, this is where you began, this is where you are now. I can see what my child learned this year. Much more meaningful than a number. So we will be working together to create those opportunities, as well as using some of the expanded learning time to incorporate projects that support the core learning and core understanding. And what this does is it means students are hands-on. Students reignite that spark for learning. It's not just about compliance, getting it done, finishing my worksheet. It's about, I really want to learn this. I'm excited to learn. That sparkle in the eyes when there's true interest and curiosity, and it's fostered. So we know social emotional development and support. This is the key piece, this number 5, that is going to help us with making sure that we target that violence index and those incidents of discipline. And this is about making sure that students have support at multiple levels. Some support for all students, targeted support for those that need it, and then those that need the most intense, that they have access, either inside of the school or through a community network, to the resources that they need to succeed. And then family engagement and student voice. So I shared the idea that what this is about, it's about the idea of listening, right? I don't have all of the ideas. I do not know your children as well as you do. Even though I spend 8 hours waking a day with them, no one knows their child like the parent. And so offering an opportunity for parents to take an active role in improving our school. Those of you that have been to the school will see we've added a reception desk to the front lobby, a parent waiting area, a computer access hub for parents to be able to come in. Ms. Rodriguez, Desiree Rodriguez, is our parent liaison, and she now has a parent room where you will be able to sit down, look at a volunteer opportunity board. If a teacher needs letters cut out and that's what you want to do, great. If you want to go in a classroom and read once a week for an hour, great. We'll facilitate that with you and working with Help Me Read as well. Come in, have a cup of coffee, have a chat with Desiree. We have spent the summer making home visits, and I'm going to get choked up because I lost a very valuable family last week because we weren't able to meet their needs. And I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but it's the hardest thing to be able to say, to have to say. This school is not in a place where we can meet your child's needs. This is one of our student leaders. It tears me up to think that our school would take away his future. And so with that, I open up the forum with tears and a Kleenex in my purse because I hope you see how deeply this work affects each of us. Whether it's your child, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a community member, whether you're a police officer, whether you're a settlement house and serving agency, I take it as a personal responsibility as if each child at that school, all 697, were mine. Your input, we're going to use a Charlotte protocol. And this is a protocol that we're going to have about, I think, 40 minutes. That'll take us till, and then 10 minutes to wrap up, 30 to 40 minutes. And I'm going to allow people to use their personal judgment to decide if they want to spend 5 or 6 minutes at each table and get to all 6. That's fine. If you want to plant yourself at a table and say, this is really where I want to focus, that would be great too, because we want to tap into your expertise and your level of engagement to make sure that we value your input. So what we'll do is each table will have a facilitator, and you'll need to select a presenter that will share out to the larger group. The facilitator will be somebody from the school or somebody connected to the school that is familiar with that particular tenet of reform and can share some input. And I'll also be roaming around to support you in the process and answer questions. And what we're going to be doing, the idea of this protocol is none of us is as smart as all of us together, right? The idea of this protocol is that we can offer each other a fresh perspective to the plan that's already in place. And we're going to ask, typically a good size is 3 to 6. We've had a great turnout today, so I think we'll be a little bit larger than that, but we'll accommodate that. And the idea of focusing the discussion is how can we make this better? What's our next step? We're going to spend the time discussing the problem, and again, please keep in mind that we want to give everybody equal airtime, and that we want to make sure that we're focused on we're in this together. Our purpose is shared to improve the work, and then we'll close up with summarizing the discussion. So I want to introduce the facilitators, and if they can just come up and get the handouts for the table. Kirsten Barclay, who is formerly was part of the district and worked here as legal counsel, is working with Center for Governmental Research and supported by the Farish Foundation to help us glue our work with the city work and help us develop a community-based strategic plan for the community school approach. So Kirsten, if you could just stand up. Kirsten will be at that community school corner if you're interested in joining her there. The dual language program, PROGRAMA SOL, that was the idea that students learn 50% in English, 50% in Spanish. Martha Morales-McBride, Martha, could you stand up? Martha is a teacher on assignment at our school. She's been there since the grant began, and she is the bilingual literacy intervention specialist. So she provides Spanish reading intervention support and coaching in the model development, and she has been all summer working on setting up classrooms side by side with teachers in the research-based approach. So she hasn't rested at all. And she'll be facilitating the dual language table, which is in the center of the room. You just need one big cup. Oh, one thing I forgot to share. I will pass these out, but this is almost like our school's report card of these reform efforts. So how will we know if we're successful? These are the metrics. If you're into numbers, you will want to take a look at that, and then one sheet has it for all 6. More and better learning time. More and better learning time is about summer and expanded learning day. And John Gonzalez, where's he? John is moving on to be the new principal of School 23, but John and I worked together in my central office world. He was formerly the director of expanded learning after he joined me when I left that position. So John will be facilitating that discussion. Strengthening teaching and learning. I would like to, I think, Ron, I asked you, right? Ron and Debbie are our RTA teacher representatives at the school. Ron is our librarian, and Debbie has been a long-term special education teacher at the school. They've dedicated their careers and much of their time to School 17. And have been terrific partners in helping with the support of this work. It's just a full copy for the table reference. Social emotional development and support. I've asked Michelle Petrogomi, and Nydia Padilla is here. Michelle Petrogomi is our school social worker. Michelle, how many years have you been here? She has been at the school 20 years. This woman can walk down the street, and there's kids that are this big to kids that are this big that know her by name and will stop her, and she is a fixture in the community at this point. So Michelle will assist with that discussion, and Nydia Padilla, where is she? She might have stepped, oh there she is. Nydia is the District Director of Community Partnerships and has a long history in Rochester, 27, how many years? Okay.
We won't talk about that.
All right, we won't talk about that. But Nydia has knowledge of the school, and Michelle will need to step out, so Nydia will take over facilitation when she does so. And then family engagement and student voice, I would like to ask Desiree Rodriguez, our parent liaison, and Morgan Kennedy, who has joined us just 3 days ago as our AmeriCorps Vista Fellow, to assist with the facilitation of that discussion. And that's really about brainstorming ways that we can offer more voice opportunities for our families and students. Okay, so we have, let's take 30 minutes, 35. I will stop you at 30 minutes. You, as I said, you can spend 5 minutes at each of the 6 tables, or you can spend all 30 at one. It's about changing our It's going well.
Opportunities like that to be able to live and having these things expanded building effects. Are there any ideas?
Pero bien fácil porque así no se hace una casa para que me hagan el verano entero todas
You're around the Great Lakes.
Y otra cosa,
There would also be positive interactions, connections. What are those foundational skills that all children will be exposed to?
through our close contact, yes, the positive behavior.
That's positive behavior.
Positive behavior. Well, they do. The evidence gets through how they apply certain behaviors. Is very clear to them, so they can vision all the
And I'm thinking something like secondary.
About taking on that role to come up with the work plan for how that's going to look. And so that's
The safety nets are
no, it's all of it.
Yeah, good.
Cada sesión aumenta las familias que pueden participar. I don't know. They came in from California 2 years ago, and I did a 16-hour workshop on it to bring in. I don't know.
So from our parents, de nuestros padres, ¿qué quisieran en la escuela para sentirse bienvenidos, para sentirse como ustedes tienen voz, ustedes tienen parte, ustedes tienen respeto, y ¿qué tenemos que cambiar para darle para cambiar para ser honestamente? Sí, me tiene que decir honestamente, no van a cambiar nada, sino...
Este es mi segundo año con mi niño vacuna y de mi pensar yo nunca me quejé de escuela, porque esa escuela me trató súper bien. Si a Luis le picó algo me llamaban, si Luis peleó me llamaban.
So she's saying she's had a very positive experience in the school. This is her child's second year, and if anything happened, they called them. Usted se ha sentido bienvenida cuando llega a la escuela, recibida bien, todo eso. She's been satisfied with feeling welcome into the school and, treated with respect.
Photograph you saw at the beginning that I took from. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about opportunities to give students a voice, and this is something that School 17 did in 2004. and it was a project where each student at the school was given a camera, and they were given the opportunity to go around and take pictures of the neighborhood, and then to talk about their feelings about their neighborhood. And I'll pass this around, but no, it's out in California, but just so I'm through the Field and Dreams project, we're in contact with
Gracias por venir. Está bien, gracias.
To each presenter to speak for about a minute on the three most important things that they believe the rest of the group should know around that priority. And then I want to close with the video of our students' vision of the future that I promised you. So first, tenet of reform, community schools becoming a beacon in the center of an urban village. Who's your reporter? Okay, so just a minute.
Okay, good morning. So for the community schools model, we identified the three kind of most important components of that to be that eventually 100% of the children that attend the school would reside within the 1.5-mile radius of the school building. We would look to realign the safety net and the community-based organizations so that there is a single point of access to the resources that all of those agencies provide at the school building. And we would also help to realign their funding so that we can ensure that the services can actually be provided. And finally, we talked a lot about the community as a key stakeholder in the community schools model, and specifically the need to use the community to build, to improve upon and build a very positive school culture.
Great, thank you. Group 2 was dual language aligned enrichment.
I had all parents in this table discussing concerns about or ways to improve communication between teachers and parents in our school. They would like more information regarding their students' reading levels, also communication about what their students are working on in the classroom so that they are better prepared to help their child, and also to consider the amount of homework that we're sending home since the kids are not coming home till 6 o'clock, and the homework that's being sent home, because they need to be able to help them. And also that I did let them know, because one concern is that, you know, the inability for them to know what's going on in the school due to the language barrier. I did let them know that everything in the school, when they come, will be in both languages, in every single classroom. So they will be better able to understand everything that's happening.
Thank you. Group 3 was expanded learning time.
All right. So I'm Rachel from AmeriCorps. I'm one of the community partners.
Can you just give her the mic?
We had a super awesome team made up of teachers, parents, and community organizations, so we're real excited about that. But we would love the project-based learning, ELT time, to have a real menu developed by the students that they actually get to choose from. So making sure that they're doing that. A big struggle has been facilitation of ELT and the literal coordination. We thought some solutions for that might be utilizing the VISTA member, utilizing the AmeriCorps members, if there is not a position that's fully and solely dedicated to that, but that is an issue that needs to be worked out. And we're really excited about removing some barriers at the district level, so here at central office, and some of those barriers are stability, staffing, scheduling, and contracts. So those are the 3 biggest things that we'll be working on. Thanks.
Thank you. Strengthened teaching and learning here in the back.
We had a rousing discussion about strengthening teaching and learning at this table, and some of the things that we came up with that we require in order to strengthen teaching. We require an instructional schedule that supports learning rather than drives instruction. Teachers need the flexibility regarding module timing and delivery, professional development for improved teaching through likes and loves of students and teachers, strengthening learning, ELT that is responsive to student interests and needs, perhaps through surveying students about their interests and what they would like to see in ELT, an increase of classroom budgets for creative classroom tools and resources, and student engagement in the governance of the building so that they have a greater student voice.
Wonderful. And that's a perfect transition. We have social emotional learning and then student voice and family engagement.
We had a very exciting group that represented the school in terms of staff, volunteer, and community organizations. So we created 3 buckets. One is establish a social emotional framework for positive behavior, universally used by all staff, pre-K through 8. We felt that that would encompass other issues that surface related to staff, knowing the students, the SSOs knowing the students, the volunteers knowing the students, and really promoting the positive behavior. The second bucket was expand the social worker staff, because they feel that having one social worker is not enough, considering the situation that they're dealing with, and explore the community school model that has several services on site, so it's more of a wraparound at the school site. And the third bucket was addressing the issue of trauma-informed school culture. What, how, type of strategies that is safe, nurturing, understanding techniques to use, but actually having staff trained, because we are dealing with so many kids that are addressing the issue of trauma, and we really need to pay more attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And group 6 was family engagement and student voice. Thank you.
Our parents and students are very important to us at 17. And here at our group, we talked a lot about maintaining our respectful rapport. So this is kindness by teachers to students, teachers to parents, all around, everything going both ways. And also having a positive attitude when people come into the school, really believing that we can improve. Another point was improved communication. So this could be newsletters, this could be monthly meetings. I know coffee and conversation is something Caterina is trying to set up. As well as potential for parenting partners we talked about with our community organizations. Our last point was having a safe and creative space for student expression. To have student voice, we could do things like a teen court program, which already exists in the area, having poetry, performance, just so that students can talk about their experiences and feel safe and respectable doing so.
I want to recognize and thank each of you for coming today. The next step is that we, as part of the receivership plan, will take each piece of your input and demonstrate how it's incorporated, and if it's something that couldn't be incorporated, explain why. And that will be a public document for you to be able to reflect on. I want to close with the community engagement process, and the vision for that is that as we have pink forms on the tables, if you want to fill those out and give me your big idea about improvement, and then whether you want to be kept part of a monthly meeting, or if you just want an update quarterly, or this was it, I don't really want to be part of this anymore, no thanks, that's okay too. But I do want to get your most up-to-date contact information and the best way to reach you. The community engagement process will not just be the small group that meets, but the expectation that our teachers will meet with other teachers, that our community members will meet with other community members, that our parents will meet with other parents to really share our message together of what the possibilities are.